Just got back from Mass and I was excited because the gospel was one that I live by and I teach on, and one that many of my viewers, especially those in my standards ministry, talk about all the time. It was the Gospel of Mark, chapter 10, verses 1 through 12. And it basically said, I'll read the whole thing. Jesus came into the district of Judea and across the Jordan. Again, crowds gathered around him, and as was his custom, he taught them. The Pharisees approached him and asked, "Is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife?" See, they were testing him. And he said to them in reply, now remember, he's going in past tense here. "What did Moses command you?" And they replied, "Moses permitted a husband to write a bill of divorce and dismiss her." But Jesus told him, "Because of the hardness of your hearts, he wrote you this commandment." God didn't write that commandment. Moses wrote that. And he wrote it because the people he was dealing with were so stinking hard-hearted that he had to figure out what to do, right? Now, it's in the Bible. So God allowed Moses to do that, right? So I'm not speaking against Moses, but he did basically say God didn't permit divorce. So then he goes on and it says, Jesus told them, "Because of the hardness of your hearts, he wrote you this commandment. But from the beginning of creation," now God's in past tense, Jesus speaking past tense, "God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." And once you're one flesh, you can't unbecome one flesh, unless, of course, you take a knife to it. But even so, God doesn't give us any opportunity to become one flesh. You're one flesh until one of you dies. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, no human being must separate, right? So no human being, no judge. This marriage that you made is between you, your spouse, and God. And no human can separate that. So then, just to add on to this, Jesus goes to his apostles go directly to him privately. So now he's not got these big audiences. He's just Jesus and his apostles. And they say, okay, they question in the house, the disciples again question Jesus about this again, right? Because they wanted to clarify. And so Jesus said to them, "This is as clear as can be. Whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her." So it's not even just the divorcing, it's the "and marries another." So you can't marry another once you're divorced. You can't. Otherwise, you're committing adultery. And you think you're not breaking commandments? You're breaking the sixth commandment. And then he says, "And if she divorces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery." Guys, we don't have an option. And I know a lot of the Protestants will go to what they consider the adultery clause, but Jesus never gave an adultery clause. The Gospels all say this. Jesus ends with a period at the end of the statement, and except for in the one Gospel where he's referring to the state of, we could say it, the state of annulment. Unless a marriage never existed in the first place is the only time someone can, they must separate. And he was referring to incest and other things that were like, that's not a valid marriage. So of course you need to separate. Adultery doesn't end a marriage. Nothing ends what already existed if it was created by God. The only one that can get rid of something that was created by God is God. So that covenant between you, your spouse, and God, even if your spouse leaves, is still a covenant. That person might be in offense of the covenant, but it doesn't make the covenant not exist. Anyway, the reason I wanted to do this, and I've already done a video for my standards privately because I just love them, is to say it was very frustrating that my priest, when he read the gospel, decided not to speak on it. So many priests are like, blah, 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 I don't want to talk about that one. That one's got too much controversy. And so the sheep, don't learn from the shepherd. Shepherds have not been courageous enough to talk about this, which is why you and I and so many of us are confused about this. So therefore I say to you, go out and preach the gospel. Speak to your priest, speak to your pastor, say, this is what it says. This is what Jesus taught his apostles. This is what he taught Peter, who was the founder of Jesus' Holy Mother Church. And he told Peter, whatever you bind on earth is bound in heaven, loosed on earth, loosed in heaven, because you, Peter, are the head of my church. And this has been the law of the church as long as Jesus has been breathing, as long as he's been alive. But he needs you to be his hands and feet. He needs you to start tapping on the shoulders of those who are too afraid to speak it and give them courage. We see in society today this mob mentality. When you get these minority of people that try to make themselves look like a majority, and they're loud or they're screeching and they tell you, they name calling. We've seen them all over the place, no matter what the topic is, if it's transgenderism or abortion or any of these topics where the bowels of hell are screeching out. They make people like you and me feel silent. Well, that's another really good thing, that no longer do we feel silent, because we've got an administration that's allowing us to say your voice can be heard. It doesn't mean we are all going to agree with each other. But what I'm bringing this up for is to say we must all be the voices and be proactive, be courageous. Give our priests, our pastors the courage to say, speak the truth. Well, God, we've got your back, but it must be spoken. Please don't avoid speaking on this topic. So be the mouth of God, be his hands and feet. This is what you were called to do. Spread the gospel to all the ends of the earth. That wasn't a law just for priests. That was for all of us. And this is a gospel. And it's a tough one because our culture is so messed up. They no longer think it's a truth. Well, there it is in black and white. So I'm hoping this helps. I know we're all kind of all messed up right now, and I'm doing my part to try to straighten things out, try to take all these crooked lines and make them straight again. The only way you can do that is staying on the bark of Holy Mother Church, because Holy Mother Church is 100% following the Bible and the words, the magisterium of the church. For those of you that are Protestant, don't understand what that means. The magisterium basically says, and what Jesus passed on orally. So everything Jesus passed on in writing and orally. And my Protestant brothers and sisters don't get the benefit of what Jesus passed on orally, because many Protestant religions have gone just down to what's in writing and miss so much. Let's go out and do our part. Stick with Holy Mother Church. Listen to Jesus' words. Listen to what he passed on to the apostles. And go out and be warriors for Christ. One day we'll all meet in heaven and we'll be like, thank God that's over with. Glad I'm here. I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. Thanks for watching yet another informational Bacon Bit. And as always, remember to live your life sunny side up. By the way, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And if you feel like donating, click on the link below. I'd really appreciate it. And again, keep living your life sunny side up.